Well, Mr. Speaker, thank you. I should start by saying that I'll be splitting my time with the honourable member for Barrie South Innisfil. When the Liberals first took office in 2015, they told Canadians that a little bit of red ink would buy prosperity, that deficits would fuel growth and investment, that Canada would be better off. But after nearly a decade of the record showing opposite, we have to wonder, should we still keep going in this direction? There's been record borrowing and record spending, and there's been record debt and hardship among Canadians. Investment per worker has fallen by more than 10%. Economic growth per capita is the worst in the G7, and the current Prime Minister has caused 86,000 jobs to be lost, resulting in the second highest unemployment rate in the G7. This Prime Minister is just like the old one: more spending, more borrowing, and more pain for hardworking Canadians. But, Mr. Speaker, behind every number is a person. Behind every number is a person, a story deserved to be known. A few weeks ago, I spoke with Joy, a woman from my community who uses a wheelchair and lives on a fixed income. She called to tell me how desperate she's been in trying to find accessible housing. She's done everything that she can. She's responsible, she's organized, she's determined, she's working hard. But as rents climb and the cost of living rises, every apartment that she's looking at is just out of her reach. She said to me, "Rachel, I just want a place where I can live with dignity." Isn't this what most people want? I mean, the very basic necessities of life. I just want a place where I can live with dignity. Mr. Speaker, my question to the government is, what would they like me to tell her? What do I tell someone like Joy, who's doing all that she possibly can, but isn't able to afford a basic roof over her head? There's Susie. Susie's another individual in my riding. She's a senior. She reached out to me. She's worked hard her entire life. She raised her family. She contributed to the community. She pays her taxes faithfully. And now in her retirement, she finds herself unable to afford groceries as well as her rent. She has to make a choice. She has to make a choice between, again, the basic necessities of being able to afford her rent or being able to put proper groceries in her fridge. Of course, the roof over her head is most important in her sight, and so she does that, but she's turned then to skipping meals in order to make it. Folks, this is Canada, one of the richest nations in the world, and yet our seniors are being forced to choose between food and rent.
Shame.
There is nothing else to point to other than government policy. It's not the sign of a healthy economy. It's the consequence of years of reckless fiscal policy that has driven up inflation, it has raised interest rates, and it has punished those who have worked hard their whole lives. And it's not just seniors or those with a disability, it's working families too. There's a couple that would prefer not to be named who sat down with me, and they shared that both of them are working full-time, they have 3 kids, and they're doing their best. But at the end of the day, they are not able to afford the things that they require as a family. And so this couple has chosen to start skipping meals in order to make sure that their kids have enough to eat and they can continue to put a roof over their head and function as a family unit. Mr. Speaker, I could go on and on because there are dozens of these stories that come into my office almost monthly. And it just keeps getting worse as time goes on. Folks that have done everything right, but for some reason can't get ahead. Mr. Speaker, this is what happens when a government spends beyond its means. Inflation is not an abstract concept. It's a thief. It's a thief. And it's the result of this government. It erodes purchasing power, it punishes responsibility, it makes the poor poorer, and it shrinks the middle class. And yet this Liberal government continues to insist that deficits somehow make life more affordable, that somehow Canadians are going to get ahead, but they're not. The truth is the opposite. Every dollar this government borrows today is a dollar that people like Joy or Susie or this hardworking couple have to pay back.
That's right.
It's on their backs. It becomes their responsibility because of this government's irresponsibility. Just the other day, I overheard my office manager in the constituency talking to my intern. And she was explaining to my intern that when people call or come into the office, sometimes they feel, they sound upset or maybe even a little bit angry. And sometimes that can be a little bit uncomfortable. But my office manager put it into perspective. She offered this explanation. She said, when they come in, they're not trying to be mean. They're not trying to be rude. They're desperate because of fear. They are afraid because they can't afford rent. They're afraid because they can't afford food. They're afraid because they can't pay their bills, and they're desperate for help. They're afraid of what the future holds because they don't see hope in it. This insight reminded me of really what's at stake here. Because behind policy debates, behind the economic charts and forecasts, are millions of Canadians who are afraid. Afraid they'll lose their jobs, afraid they'll be without a home, afraid they'll never get ahead or be able to step into that opportunity that they so long for. These are the people that I visit with each and every day when I am in my constituency. These are the people who share their stories with me, and they just want a fair shot at life. They want, or I should say they need, Canada to be a place like what it once was, a place where opportunity is great and where the chance to get ahead is normal. Mr. Speaker, the Liberals told Canadians that their deficits would grow the economy from the heart out. Well, how's that working? It's not.
No.
It's not working. Instead, they've grown debt, they've grown dependence, and they've grown despair. That's what's on this government's record. Since 2015, business investment in Canada has fallen off a cliff by about $500 billion. Gone. South of the border. Because companies don't want to invest here because they see a government that is hostile to them. A government that actually wants those jobs to go south, as the Prime Minister has promised. He wants to actually send not just $500 billion, but now he wants to send $1 trillion, is his latest promise. The Liberals have been trying to convince Canadians that more spending is the solution to every problem that their spending has already created. If we would just take a second to consider that, it's like pouring gasoline on a fire to put it out. That's what this government is offering. That's what we can expect in the November 4th budget from this government. More spending to put out the fire that their inflationary spending has already caused. It's ludicrous. The truth is simple. Government doesn't create wealth. It takes it from those who do, which means it's incumbent upon government to be wise stewards, because every dollar it spends, it is taking from a taxpayer. It is taking from Joy and Susie and the hardworking couple that I referenced earlier. Mr. Speaker, I want to be clear. The motion that we are discussing today isn't just about numbers, it's about people. It's about Joy, it's about Susie, it's about that couple in my riding. Canadians are strong and they are resilient and they are hopeful, but they are losing faith in this government, in the leaders of the day. And who can blame them? After nearly a decade of Liberal promises, they're worse off than ever before. They need a government that respects their money, that lives within its means, and that restores common sense to our economic decisions. Conservatives are calling on this Liberal government to stop its wasteful spending that fuels inflation, to bring investment back to our country rather than sending it south of the border, and to make life affordable for hardworking Canadians yet again. Mr. Speaker, I urge every member in this House to listen to the stories in their communities, to hear the pain and the anxiety behind the statistics, to recognize that the Liberal government's decisions are failing Canadians. Let's stop repeating Justin Trudeau and this current Prime Minister's policies. And let's stop mortgaging our children's future. Instead, let's start building a Canada where every person, regardless of income or circumstance, has the opportunity to thrive. It's time to put those people, Canadians, first. It's time to rein in spending and be responsible.
Way to go, Rachel.
Questions and comments? Questions and commentaires. The Chief Government Whip.
So, Mr. Speaker, if government spending is inflationary and just contributes to inflation, does that mean that the budget that this member ran on of spending an additional $106 billion would have contributed to inflation as well?
The Honourable Member for Lethbridge.
We'll recall that in 2015, Justin Trudeau was the Prime Minister at the time. And he came in and he said, just a little bit of red ink, just a little bit of red ink, it will help Canadians. We fast forward then, 10 years later, still a Liberal government in place, and Canadians are worse off than they have ever been in terms of being able to afford the necessities of life. Food bank lines are longer than they've ever been before.
Right.
And it's because this government decided that its policy would be to take on debt after debt after debt by going into deficit spending. It's wrong.
Well done.
Questions and comments? The Honourable Member for Gaspésie-Les-Îles-de-la-Madeleine, Listegouge. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I would like to thank my colleague for her speech, which was anchored in the reality of her constituents. I would like to hear her opinion. In the Bloc Québécois, we also believe this government is poorly managing public finances. I'm going to keep speaking to see if there's a problem with interpretation. I will let the member start again, just to give the member from Lethbridge the opportunity to hear his entire question. No issues there. I thanked the member for her speech, which was anchored in the reality of her constituents. I think interpretation is now there, so I will continue. I'd like to hear her opinion, because in the Bloc Québécois, we also believe that the government is poorly managing public funds. The deficit is overly large, and it is the result of a number of poor decisions. Among them, the cancellation of the carbon tax. Please note that you cannot use the Prime Minister's name. The member may now continue. Sorry about that, Mr. Speaker. So this government repealed the carbon tax outside Quebec in the middle of the campaign. Because of that, $4 billion were reimbursed to people who never actually paid the carbon tax in the first place. So I'd like to hear my colleague's opinion. I know they're opposed to the carbon tax, but does she not agree that giving $4 billion worth of gifts in the middle of a campaign to people who had never actually paid the carbon tax was a bad idea?
Thank you. I think the honourable member points to a greater problem that is at play here, and that is a government that is very much, out seeking votes. At that point in time, it was, conveniently, it was during an election that money was reimbursed. And of course, as he mentioned, it went to folks who didn't actually even pay into the pot of money to begin with. So why? Why did the Liberal government make that decision? Why did they, give this extra $4 billion to these folks who had never even paid paid into the carbon tax to begin with? I have no other explanation than to suggest that perhaps the Liberals were simply seeking votes. It's wrong. It's a misuse of Canadian dollars.
Yeah, that's what they were doing.
Questions and comments? Questions and commentaires. The Honourable Member for Regina Louvain.
Thank you very much. I want to thank my colleague from Lethbridge for the wonderful speech. And she's been around this place for a fairly long time, as I've been about 6 years now. And we've heard these wonderful slogans. One was, we're going to go into debt so Canadians don't have to during COVID by Justin Trudeau. Another one was, we're going to build back better. Another slogan that was wonderful from Justin Trudeau was, the budget will balance itself. And now we're hearing this new line is, we're going to spend less to invest more. Does she think that will be as successful as the other bumper sticker slogans?
Honourable Member for Lethbridge.
Thank you to the honourable member for the question. I mean these catchphrases that are used by the Liberals. We're going to go into debt so Canadians don't have to. That debt gets put on the backs of Canadians. It's our children and our grandchildren that are going to pay that debt.
That's right.
Like, what kind of sloppy statement is that? The government's going to go into debt so Canadians don't have to? Well, where the heck is the government going to get that money from?
Canadians.
There is no money for government without taxpayers. That is exactly where that money is going to come from.
Questions and comments? We have time for a very short one. The Honourable Member for Madawaska-Restigouche.
Merci, Monsieur le Président.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My colleague spoke about the cost of living. As such, I'm wondering why she voted against affordable daycare spaces. This is a concrete measure that would have let parents enter the workforce. What do the people of Lethbridge think about the fact that their member is opposed to affordable childcare?
In 20 seconds or less.
I appreciate the opportunity to tell this member exactly what those in Lethbridge think of their plan. The members in my riding hate this Liberals' plan with regards to daycare because it's taken away quality, it's taken away spaces, and it's put them in a place of desperation because they have fewer dollars in their bank account than they've ever had before, and now they don't have access to proper daycare for their kids.
Right. Yeah.